Welcome back to Don the Developer podcast, where we help junior developers get jobs and aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. I knew I was going to screw it up eventually. With me, actually, before I even say that, today we're actually doing a review of the Coding Bootcamp Coding Dojo. So I invited three graduates on all kind of with different experiences of the Coding Bootcamp to really, we're just going to dive into a bunch of questions and we're going to hear what their experience was like. So really excited to meet all of you. Thank you so much for coming on. Maggie, would you like to give a short little intro?
Yeah, I'm Magdalena, Maggie for short, Kenny, and I currently work for a startup company. I actually just started my first week with them. So I know,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
great. Prior to that, I was a software developer for VRI. I made internal software. My new company, though, is POSSUP, and they help parents engage with schools and districts. So really help bridge those communication gaps and provide a level of feedback and insight from parents themselves and their students. So it's a really great company. My team's amazing. Yeah.
That's really cool. It sounds like you're in it for more than just the coding, just the way you were talking about it.
I love them. I love what they're doing. I think the purpose behind it and already how much they've been helping. It's really where I want to be as a developer too, like working for a company that is making a difference, and that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm really happy. Yeah.
That's really cool. I hope it goes well. And I'll just do a quick intro. I'm Don. I've pretty much bounced from three different startups. One was a UI engineer in healthcare, software engineer with a tech ed company, and then full stack engineer at kind of like an AI automation company. And then recently in January, I kind of just went with a venture of starting my own company. And so that's been a lot of fun. I wish I could code a little bit more often, but I've had to kind of branch away from that temporarily. But yeah, that's pretty much my history. What about you, Keiko?
Yeah, so my name is Keiko. I've had 13 years of healthcare background, and I transitioned into Coding Dojo Bootcamp, where they teach full stack development in Python, Java, and Min. And so now I'm currently just sharpening my skills, to delve deeper into the Python language and also SQL. And I'm also just developing a side project for the client. I'm not currently employed right now, so that's why I'm just trying to work on that. So.
Nice, nice. So did you say you have a client?
I work with various clients, so if they need help on the front end or the back end, just a little tweaks here and there. Um, it could range from like front end to back end. So like Python, it's really kind of like it's a wide range of multidiscipline projects. So there's not like one set of particular one. So
That's tough. That's really cool
uh,
though. It sounds like because I host a meetup. We have about 1,000 members that have come through so far, and I would say a good chunk of them don't even have half the experience that you have. The fact that you're even getting work with clients is definitely a big plus for you. So I think you're going to do well.
oh, I hope so. But it's like little things here and there. I wouldn't say it's very major, but it definitely gives me an experience to know what I should really look into
That's
for
awesome.
potential employer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. How about you, Chris?
Mhm.
Um, my name's Chris. I actually am coming from, or I came from the restaurant background. My parents owned a restaurant and I helped them run it, but it just was not for me. So I wanted to transition my career into something that I enjoyed. So actually, on the 16th of last year was the day that I started Coding Dojo.
Wow.
And then as of right now, I'm currently with a company um, where I'm able to, it's a restaurant point of sale company. So they liked that I had the restaurant background and I have the technology background, and I'm able to like put them together to kind of help them progress their applications and build great products for them.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You bring your previous experience before coding, and it pairs you with that first position really well. I wish more people would do that.
Yeah.
So I have a little hiccup. So I went to General Assembly. Is that a problem? Because I'm hearing Coding Dojo, and I might be in the wrong podcast. I mean, I know it's your podcast, but I'm hearing that. That's why I didn't say anything during my intro, because I was like, wait, did I do it? Is there a big hiccup?
Okay. That is completely my fault. That's not even close to your fault. I am so sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to get like too far in, and then we're like,
Yeah, no, I'm glad you told me now. Maggie, I know you set time aside for this and everything. That's, completely my mistake. I'm sorry.
No,
thanks.
that's okay. That is okay. Okay. So what happens now?
Well, what you could do a couple things. You could chill with us, and give kind of some insight, or you could also leave if you want to do something else. What would you like to do?
I'm totally fine with staying.
Okay.
Whatever you think, I'm fine. I mean, I'm kind of curious how Coding Dojo went, especially compared to like my experience. So I feel like that's kind of cool to see like the differences and stuff.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Same here. I would like to learn more about General Assembly because I'm hearing a lot of positive reviews about it. So I feel like I should have went there instead. Because I've seen a lot of them like have jobs like almost immediately. So I wonder what is it about General Assembly that really stood out. So
yeah, and what differs between the two too. I'm curious about that.
Right.
I will say, so I did take General Assembly WDI 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I know they've made a lot of changes, but I know the core structure is still very similar.
I think we found a new angle for your podcast here.
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, should I say it or not? But I'm like, I've been looking for a new angle, something slightly different. So this is it. Let's run with it. Okay, so with Coding Dojo, what was the application process like?
From what I remember, I honestly think that it was sort of easy. I just remember applying, them sending I believe a test for us to take. It was like a time test, I think. And then you had to do it in a certain amount of time. And then you submitted that. And then it went up for like a review or something. And then they would call you back with that. And then you did a phone interview with the the recruiting person or whatever.
Okay.
So I had some sort of background of knowing a little bit of JavaScript and stuff. So I wouldn't say that it was super difficult. And nothing about it was oh wow, that was hard to get in. So I mean, my experience might differ from someone else.
Well, it's definitely a different experience for me. I've never done coding in my life. I just know the basic of computers. So for me, it was quite challenging. I think if I remember way back, I think they give you an algorithm test that you have to solve. And I guess after that, they call you and just to get to know you. It was a really fast interview. And so I guess as long as you pass the algorithm test, then you go to your next. It's kind of easy to get in, but at the same time, I don't know if it's easy for somebody who have no background whatsoever.
Right.
So.
I like that they do an algorithm type based question too. I know with General Assembly, we had a similar thing where it was just some CSS, some JavaScript, some HTML. And I felt like a rock star going into it because I was like, oh, wow, I can do this. But it was a lot heavier than that when I got in. But the application process wasn't that difficult. I was followed up by a phone interview. And then you had like pre-work that you would do before.
Oh yeah, the
course.
pre-work. There was pre-work
Yeah,
for
I
us too.
forgot about that. Yeah.
So kind of the same structure, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So Chris, actually, when did both of you graduate Coding Dojo?
I graduated December 21st, 2019. I
Okay.
did well, I guess I don't know where everybody else is now, but I actually I did not do I went to the place. It wasn't like online or anything.
Okay.
So for me, I graduated Coding Dojo, I believe, the fall of 2018. That 2018. It was like an immersive. I did it like in not remote, but more like immersive program with your cohort, which really helped out a lot. Especially if you're trying, if you're a beginner.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I would not have paid the amount of money I paid for remote.
I wouldn't either.
All right.
And that's the tough thing with COVID too. It's pretty much your only choice at the moment. But wait, okay. So Keiko, have you been kind of looking for a position for a couple of years now?
I wasn't okay. So I wasn't like looking for a job like consistently every day. After Coding Dojo, I felt kind of burned out. It was a lot for me to take in, but luckily I had my cohort who were very supportive, and it really helped me a lot. And I was able to, get my diploma certificate. So I just kind of dove away a little, just to take a little break. And then I guess like I didn't feel I was ready to take on a developer role because I felt it was more copy and paste, in my opinion. I know you have to look for information here and there, but I just didn't feel I had the necessary tools to be able to, to really understand what's going on behind the scenes instead of just copy and paste this stuff. So I took on a little bit of time to try to, first I tried to study everything, all the languages there were, and that really, it was not effective. It was until I interviewed by a CEO of the company, and he actually told me, it's better that it sounds like you are familiar with the frameworks, but you don't understand the deeper language of it. And I guess from there I started delving more into the language, and honestly that was kind of like the best advice I got, because now I really understand how things work and everything. And so I just kind of giving myself some time, but I guess I do suffer from imposter syndrome. I just feel like it's never enough. I don't know when is enough. So maybe a part of me, it's not just me, but I noticed my cohort also feel the same way. They didn't really been able to find a job either. The ones that did, the very few, are the ones that had a lot of coding experience before, or they graduated from a computer science. So that's kind of the dilemma that we're in.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I kind of just want to share, maybe this is going to be helpful for you or not. It sounds like you're in a better place. But the way I view imposter syndrome is I think everyone has it to some degree. Everyone. And I think what I try to teach people is don't focus on becoming more confident in yourself as a developer. Focus more on becoming more confident with not being confident, with not knowing everything. It's like, it's just a skill in life. And I noticed like when I made this mindset transition, I started accomplishing things that I never thought I could before I didn't have the confidence. But it's just getting used to the unknown. And I think once you do that, like that's going to set you up so well, not even just in coding, but outside of coding and other areas of your life.
Absolutely.
It definitely like helped me be able to take on unexpected things and learn fast. So like you said, not just in coding, but it also helped me apply in other areas of my life, just to just to be okay with not knowing certain things.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think the longer I've been a developer, the more I realize how little I know. It's like it's gone downward as far as my knowledge goes.
The imposter syndrome is something that like we as developers have to like realize when it first happens and really like, okay, this is imposter syndrome. Because it's sad to say it gets worse even when you get a job. So
Really? Oh, wow.
yes.
No, it does. And like, I mean, it's definitely too, like, I think what everybody needs to take into consideration too is coding's hard. Like, it's not easy. And some people, it might be easier for. But as long as, like, I always say, like, if I learned something, especially during the boot camp, like if I learned something that I didn't know the day before, like that was already a win. Like that was me getting a little bit of a, like a step up. And yeah, what we do is hard. We're never going to know everything ever. And yeah, I really like how you put it though too, Don. Like, I mean, exactly it.
So I think, okay, I just had to click something. Well, no, I don't have anything to add. I agree with all of you. I think that was really good. Thanks for kind of elaborating. Yeah.
How many people were in both of your cohorts?
Oh, and just my cohort. See, the thing is, I went into in person, so there was 3 cohorts, and in mine, I think there was like 21.
Okay.
And then in the other ones, at one point, 2 of our classes merged, so we had a pretty big cohort on that stack because we did 3 stacks. But there was 3, and then we would all like rotate into new stacks, and then one would graduate, and a new one would come in. So there was always 3.
Yeah, it's around like 20 people per cohort. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think mine was 32 when it started.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I initially took it, it said there was going to be like 15 to 18. I'm actually glad there's that many people,
Wow.
but at the time, like I remember going in and being like, whoa, this is not what was, like, they didn't say that it was going to be this many people.
Right. Did you do an in-person?
I did.
Oh, okay, cool.
Did you feel like, how many instructors did you have, Maggie?
So when I had it, we had about 6 different ones, which was interesting because it was new to General Assembly at the time too. Now I think they only work with like 2 or 3.
Okay.
But at the time it was 6 and constant rotating. But we had one main instructor.
Okay. All right. Cool. And then before I forget, Chris, how long did it take you to get a job?
I think it was like right around 6 months. So I got June
Okay.
of this year. Yeah.
All right, 6 months. All right, cool. So 2 different experiences, and I found I can just tell people in general, just from the data that I'm seeing, a lot of people are it's taking longer. Coding boot camps are just producing more developers, and the market's becoming a little bit more saturated. So you have to take that into account if you watch this like 6 months down the road as well. But let's jump into this. So what were your instructors like?
My instructors were really great. So like I said, we had 3 instructors, and we had 3 stacks. So there was basically an instructor for each stack. When we first came in, we did like web fundamentals, which was just like JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And then we moved to Python, which that instructor was just like incredible. You came to him with a problem, he could tell you like within 2 seconds what was wrong. It was like, he was really good and he knew his stuff. And then for C# and I learned mean at the time, was the same instructor, but we switched. So there wasn't like the same thing going on at the same time. And he knew his stuff well too. And he was actually a graduate from Coding Dojo. So it was like, he went through the process, was teaching. So he kind of knew the background of Coding Dojo, the way they taught, and then was able to just like project what he learned onto us, which was great.
Okay.
So the instructors that I've had, they were all like great people. They were really great people to be with, and but each one had different teaching styles. Um, I think that's why, like for example, I had an instructor who taught Python, and that really, in a way, that kind of like delve into the basic, the foundation about Python, and I think that's why I got myself into that tech stack, because he was able to explain these things, especially for as a beginner. But the other ones, like I said, they were great people. It's just that the teaching styles, I feel like they're missing the basic information. And so, yeah, we had better than others, but overall, just great people.
Did you feel like when you say they weren't really tackling the fundamentals, were they just skipping to too complex of problems and not like bridging like basics into something a little bit more intermediate? Or what do you mean by that?
For example, like when you say a line of code, one of the instructor will like kind of stop and explain what those codes mean and why you're doing it, versus someone just run the line of code and just say one word about it. And so, and as you go deeper, you either get very lost or you understand it more. So
Okay.
it depends on the teaching style. Yeah.
That makes sense. So it sounds like you kind of had split stacks and you were learning multiple languages. Do you feel like that gave you less of an in-depth knowledge than you could have gotten with a single language? Do you feel like you were spread too thin at parts?
Yes, very much so. I felt it was too rushed, jumping from one language to another. So I never really felt like I could really, have a time to really understand why certain things work, like certain code work. So I guess we basically, as long as we can build the application, that's how you pass,
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you understand,
Right.
completely what's going on, unfortunately. But it might be different for everybody. Like I said, it depends on how much coding background you have. But I just think it's a little tougher on somebody who never had that background.
Yeah.
I could definitely see like how like someone could get like behind really quick, especially if you don't understand some concepts or something, and then all of a sudden like people are just like the course is like this far ahead, and you're like, wait, I don't know what's going on. I almost got behind in a C sharp because I was just like not understanding some things.
Yeah.
But the great thing is that well, I guess it's kind of great. I live in Indiana. I went to Chicago every day to go to school. So I had that hour drive.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So if I didn't understand something on that way home, I was listening to a video about that concept or something, and like trying to learn as much as I could, because sometimes on the way home I'd be in 2-hour traffic or something. So and I just put something on, try to like learn, take like all the time that I had off, go in the next day. I would be in there early. I mean, I just put in the time. That's all I had to do for 4 months. So that's all I did.
That was a really good approach. I didn't realize how much extra work you have to do on the side. I don't feel it's like the way they teach like a college or university. Like they tell you what to read, what to go for. It's very much, I teach you the little things and the rest you just figure it out. But sometimes we don't really have a lot of roadmap. What do you mean? Like, where do we go? Or like I've had maybe by the time the term ended, like more than half the people left because it was really that difficult. I don't know if it has to do with curriculum or it's them or it's both. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it all depends a lot on like your cohort too. Like we had like great people. We all talked. We did algorithms every morning. Like it was just like a good group of people that like we like fed off of each other, and like there would be that one person that was like getting way behind, but we would kind of like help them out and push them, and it would help them, and it would also help us too.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, initially there will be people who does really well. Like, for example, they're doing really well with HTML, CSS. They're getting there, and then next thing you know, they just disappear.
Yeah.
So that's why I really feel like if I can say something about Coding Dojo, I really like how they have a very strong support system with your cohort. So I really feel that the reason why I was able to push through and for everybody else. So.
I mean, I can say I know with General Assembly too, it's one of my favorite things was the cohort. And like we would get there early, we would all like powwow and go, we learned what or what we were going to be learning. And then afterwards, I mean, we would stay for hours. So the course really extended much longer than even after that day ended. Like we did so much outside work and definitely like leaned on each other a lot. So I know that helped. And it definitely helped, like you said, like with people who were falling behind, help them too. Because your instructors can only do so much. And then it is on you and your support.
In general, I think every coding bootcamp thrives with having a good environment from just inviting people that are kind. And Chris, like you said, if you spot someone falling behind, going out of your way to catch them up and kind of just having that team mentality. But what you're kind of describing, Keiko, with half of your cohort leaving, typically that's because the application process could be improved and they are inviting too many people in.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. They did a very little test in the beginning, and I think that's what it could have improved.
Yeah.
It might have something to do with people's mentalities too. It's like some people might just want like, oh, I'm sort of interested in programming or something. I want a big paycheck. And some people are like, I'm in my 30s and I want a new career. So they take that a little more seriously.
I know. I mean, even with General Assembly, one of the things that we would say, because we had about 5, I think, people drop out too. And one of the things that they market it as anybody can do it, and it's not that hard, but it is hard, and not everybody can do it, and that's okay. It's just like, or it's not for everybody, I should say. Not that everybody can do it. It's not for everybody. And it is a lot of commitment to, and instructors, I think, is a huge thing also. And how you were saying with your instructors that you felt like they were copy and pasting a lot, you're not going to learn much, because you can copy and paste that and get your application to get up and running, but you don't understand what you're doing,
I mean, it's not like I can take those applications to work, transfer it to copy, so it just doesn't work that way. And I think that's why I was very hesitant about applying so soon, because it doesn't look good. So.
And it was mentioned just the mindset of the people coming in. I do feel like that's another thing that needs to be screened in the interview process. Do you feel like it was when you think back to your interviews?
I'm sorry, did I?
Yeah, I'm sure it came up.
Keiko, the question was, do you feel like in your interview they were looking to see if you were serious about coding or not?
Yes, very much. But I think with the qualities that they were looking for is somebody who's very persistent.
Okay.
And well, I said, yeah, of course, I'm persistent, and I basically told them like I would like to be good at something, and that is the one thing I would really want to pursue. And I think that was enough to win me in. Yeah. So I guess as long as you're persistent and you know how to research and find out things, that was probably one of the more important things, rather than do you know or do you have any coding background.
Okay. So Chris, you had mentioned that you had put some extra hours in. How many hours do you think a week both of you put in?
I mean, I would get home at like, with the drive and everything, I'd get home at like 8 or 9, get up at 5 because I got to make that drive in. I mean, I get there at probably around 7 just because I didn't want to be late. And then I'd sit there like in the foyer. I'd be the first one there, just doing some of the curriculum there. They would open up the doors, and then some nights that we'd be there, I'd be there just like Maggie said, we just stay and solve some problems. It was like right when we were supposed to leave, we would all get really chatty about some problem, and then we'd sit there for hours trying to solve it. But it was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was worth it. Definitely worth it.
Do you spend any time over the weekends?
I don't think I did.
I don't know how you could have gone through it if you did.
I tried to keep that time to myself. I may have, thrown my computer up and like here and there tapped around on it, or maybe just watch some YouTube videos on some concepts or something. But nothing like too crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually glad you didn't, because like waking up like 5 a.m., falling asleep around 8:30, like right when I got home, like that was exactly what I had to do because I lived in Indiana. I went to Chicago, so
oh, wow.
I remember that all too well. So I'm glad you got the weekends off. That's huge.
Yeah.
What about you, Keiko?
I worked on the weekend too, so
Did you?
so I didn't have really, maybe Sunday, but not even. I would still try to catch up on Sunday, and so I would say maybe a good 80 hours a week, around that many hours. So yeah, just like starting. I think it started like 9:30 in the morning till maybe 10 p.m., 9 p.m. And
Jeez.
it's just me and other cohorts. Sometimes they would come on Saturdays or on the weekends, but I went there pretty much every day. So that's why I was burned out after, So
I can
it just felt like
imagine.
constant work. Yeah.
So
Just trying to catch up,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. So after you graduated, we touched on it a little bit, but we can elaborate more here. How well do you feel like you were prepared for a real developer position?
I would say I was very eager. I wasn't like, I didn't know exactly where I stood. Of course, I was like, I learned this stuff. Now I'm ready. Like I'm ready to go. Like, so I'm ready to start applying, and which I did. A week. So I graduated, and then the following week, the whole week was like a career services thing where we went in and got our LinkedIn profiles ready to go. They went over like negotiation, resumes, all that stuff. And then I just started applying. And then after that week was up, I live like 5 minutes from the library. So I just walk to the library and sit there, apply, work on projects, apply some more, and then, go on LinkedIn and start following people, trying to make connections. And yeah. So I think I felt ready. I mean, obviously I was just ready to see what could happen, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was hesitant to apply, so as I you recall, it just it took me a while to feel ready to apply. Yeah.
Did you guys have like any kind of like, I know you said after, Chris, that you did like LinkedIn and like your portfolio and all that. Did you do that at all during your boot camp, or was that all for designated for that week after?
Yeah, all that what I did a week after. I may have like started on my like resume or something, but I didn't do anything beforehand. It was all just that week after, and then a week after that, I think I still went in and like worked on my portfolio and some projects with some people.
Okay. Yeah, I know with General Assembly, that's one of the things like throughout is you have that kind of like outcomes person that's designated for your cohort that helps you with your LinkedIn throughout, resume throughout, and then you have like a meet and hire a week after, so you have time to like really prep everything, and then all these people come in and you kind of show off your portfolio, I think that also helps with General Assembly get you hired after, if that makes sense. It's still, there still can be a big gap in when you're hired. But I think that kind of does maybe help. I just know that that's different with what you guys have said. So.
Oh, that's cool. So you had like employers, potential employers come in and
Career coach, yeah, and then we'd have potential employers. So in Atlanta, like Home Depot loves to hire like General Assembly grads, and there's certain companies that have like previously hired them, so they'll all come in. New companies will, and then you like present your portfolio. I don't know how they do it for remote stuff, but I think they still have a layer of that of doing some kind of outcomes with that too.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, because we did the General Assembly podcast the other week. Don't remember if remote got that opportunity.
Okay. Yeah.
They might have, but
we did a virtual kind of like job fair. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it would too. And I think the job fair idea works really well too, because a lot of people from my cohort did get their positions from that event. But so Coding Dojo didn't have something like that, where they brought in companies and you kind of showed something off?
No, the only thing that we had was one company that they worked with in Chicago came in and they had a capstone project that you can do to kind of like get your foot in the door, like, here, do this project. Our team will review it and then kind of like give you an interview with this project. But I didn't do that. So.
Okay. So,
but that was kind of the only thing as far as like outside people coming in.
Okay, cool. Well, all right. So what was the post-grad assistance like? Like, how did they have a course? Did they have an advisor you touch base with? Like, what did they help with after you graduated that helped you get that position?
So they did the that week of career services, and then once that was done, I worked on my resume. I gave it to the career service person to kind of like look over it, and he kind of like helped me like refine it. And then I think it was every week, they would send out like potential like job leads and stuff like that, where you can like go apply. There was a couple where like, hey, I have a recruiter from this company reaching out to us. Send me your resume, and we'll kind of like be that connection between it. So there was a couple companies that they did that with. And then they actually, when I got the job offer, my career service director kind of helped me like negotiate a little. Like, I told him that, hey, I got a job offer. Like, does this sound good? And so he kind of helped me through that process. So that was nice that I had that option because I was like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah, that's really cool. Negotiations, it's tough for a lot of people.
It was a little scary.
Did you guys have any kind of like technical interview training at all, like during, like, do you have any practice throughout?
So we did algos every morning, which kind of helped. I mean, we did it on whiteboards. They had like the whole wall full of whiteboards, and every morning we would do algorithms. So that kind of helped us for our technical interviews. We did mock interviews with like each other in the classroom. I mean, it was all pretty positive. I don't think like it was bad or anything. I mean, you take what you could get out of it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think they definitely help you out with your resume, what the keywords you need to add, and so I think she did a really good job, like what keyword to add, and the website that you can look jobs into. They did have a technical test, but like I said, it's very broad. It's a very broad, question from HTML, Python, or CSS. It's so random. But I wouldn't say that was like the core of what we were prepared for. Yeah. I think it was mostly about trying to get your resume out there and emphasizing on doing your projects. And also learn about negotiation as well. So all that lasted for like a week of that, and then the week after they will send job leads, but for me a lot of them was like all out of date. So um, I mean, she can afford to go out of state, but so there were very few jobs that are like within my city, or you know, or sometimes a lot of those jobs they want more experience. So
Yeah.
I don't know how fitting it is for coding Dojo graduates. So
Yeah, it's tricky applying out of state. I definitely got very few leads that followed up with me just applying out of state. It's tricky. It's definitely tricky.
yeah.
So, man, I had a
I
question.
considered it too. I was like, I'm gonna move. I can't get a job here. I'm going somewhere else.
I've been thinking about that, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Chris, I can tell you very much. There are tons of jobs in Chicago. Don't ever move out of Chicago because of that. Like the developer scene is insane.
I think I got super lucky. I live in Indiana. I got a job 5 minutes from my house.
Oh, really?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Honestly,
Okay.
I don't know if I didn't get this job. I don't know. I can only assume that I probably wouldn't have a job because of how hard it was to get a job. So, I mean, I got very lucky.
You got restaurants and you got 5
I
minutes.
know you lucked out.
I know.
Damn. Okay, so if you had to just kind of talk through how your experience is going and get advice, could you call an advisor? Could you talk to them?
Oh yeah, I could.
Okay.
I can talk to any one of my instructors or advisor because we have a Slack channel. I still am in touch with some of the people from my cohort. I'm very good friends with two of them that I talk to like every day. Just like they're going through the projects and doing this, and we just talk about our whole experience. So I can call or I could text any of them at any time, and they would help me.
That's really cool. It sounds like the job assistance was really good with that coding boot camp because I've heard definitely different experiences, and both of your experiences it's definitely up there compared to some others. So I don't even think I got our advisors to actually like reach out to the leads for me and like make that first connection. When you said that, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So I feel like we've kind of touched generally on a lot of stuff that I wanted to touch. Now I kind of want to dig into what you feel like could really be improved with a couple areas. So let's actually, because I think we had some conversation around, you know what? Let's start with the curriculum, what you were actually learning. So try to separate it from the teaching styles and the instructor, like the actual content and code that you were learning. What do you think of it? Or, well, we kind of talked about that, but like what could be improved about it is a better question.
I feel maybe a little bit of computer science basics. Computer science basic, and in order to understand algorithm. Okay, when I first saw it, I had no idea what algorithm was and why they were used for. So maybe a little more emphasis on the algorithm. What is it for? Why is that even important? Because I've noticed a lot of the people that they don't understand why we had to learn the algorithm for. They just thought like as long as you know the framework, you're fine, which is obviously not true. So I think that could be improved. Just touching on the basic of computer science, and because I think once you understand the language, it's so much easier to understand the rest of the languages. So.
Yeah. So just to clarify, it sounds like you kind of just like dove into learning an algorithm.
We had like about 30 minutes to solve an algorithm, but it was so blind. Like we just blindly solved it. And yeah, we would get a little bit of input here and there, but everyone was just struggling to figure out what the heck was going on. So I think for some people that wasn't really helpful. because I guess we needed some sort of guidance a little bit in that aspect. Yeah,
Do
so I would
you
say algorithm.
do you feel like you didn't really have a good understanding of programming fundamentals, like what, a variable is and what a loop is?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like
Oh,
what the
wow.
variable is, what is the data structure, for
Okay.
example. What do you mean by memory allocation? Those stuff that you need to consider.
Yeah.
So I think if they just cover that basic, then it's easier to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because I don't think anybody can retain that information, not understanding or delving deeper into that. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, I
I
mean
think that would be.
data structure and algorithms are tough. Like they're a really tough thing to dive into, especially at first. Even learning just like some of the basic data structures without trying to optimize them, it's tough. Okay, interesting.
So I've been honestly watching the Udemy. I don't know how to pronounce it, Udemy classes.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take algorithm there. And oh man, like it really just blew my mind. Like I totally understand what was going on. And it was like fast explanation, but I don't know. I don't know why I don't know if the curriculum could have been different. And so I think from there, just learning the algorithm, I was able to much better implement, you know, other things better. So
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. What about you,
yeah.
Chris?
Um, I would probably say that, we learned a lot in a very small amount of time. So they try to pack in a lot of information. There was times in the mean course, it was just like it was a lot. It was a lot because we learned the whole stack, you know, back front end to back end. And they had a way of doing it where it's like we're gonna do this like the hard way, and then we're gonna show you like how it is, and this is the easy way, and be glad that you're doing it this way. So it's kind of like I don't know if that was beneficial or not. But maybe I don't know if they wasted time doing it that way. Um, but yeah, it was just like maybe I didn't get as much of the best practices of certain languages that I could have. Yeah, I learned how to do it and I went through the motions, and if I had some questions, I looked it up and stuff like that. But it's like, what is the best practice to do a certain thing? And maybe we didn't touch on that as much, because I'm kind of learning maybe more of that now, now that I'm in the job and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go
Sorry.
for it.
I'm sorry. My experience is very similar to Chris and Keiko. I'm really glad you haven't stopped, like you didn't give up, especially for being burnt out. And I really like that you're still even doing like Udemy stuff and like really like honing in on your skills. I really admire that. And I did have one question for the both of you. Do you guys find that it's easier to learn a new language because of your boot camp?
Yes. It's scary to think like because I learned the mean stack. The cohort after me, they were able to learn, they switched and they started with the MERN stack.
Yeah.
So I knew Angular, and I was like an Angular fanboy. I was like Angular all the way.
Yeah.
But I currently work in React. So it was scary to do that switch. But now that I'm into it, it's like I can't think about going back to Angular.
Yeah.
But I know I would be able to. It would just like, it's just that it's so into that mindset that like changing gears is just like, you feel like it's gonna be, you forgot everything.
That's the answer to your question, Maggie. I feel like it gave me like a template of what's out there, instead of like scrambling where to start. So at least I'm aware of what they do and how to do it. So it gives me a chance to I take a lot of Udemy classes and it's really helpful. So it gives me a chance to now really understand why they did the things they did. I maybe without the boot camp, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
Maybe, So.
I always think the same thing with me. I mean, I feel like Chris, I had a very similar situation with you and like how it all went. I learned MERN. I'm sorry, not MERN, mean. Wish I learned MERN.
Yeah.
But anyways, he did give me the overall concepts, like having those higher level concepts. And so like learning a new language after a new framework, it was easier to pick up. And I feel the same way of, I don't know if I would know where to start if I had it.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Cool. Sorry, that's all I had to ask. Okay, go on.
No, you're good. You're good. Maggie, do you feel like at some point in the future you're going to want to learn the MERN stack?
Oh, I've already learned it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's why I said I wish I had learned it during GA.
Gotcha. Okay.
They did the same thing. Like the cohort right after me, they got to learn React, and I was like,
Oh no.
in my job, I had to learn it on the job, and yeah. So that's what I was using for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Cool. It's something to mention. Oh yeah. So in the General Assembly podcast, one of the pieces of feedback that all the women gave was the coding bootcamp didn't do a good job of bridging the front end with the back end. Like once people had to make that transition, they mentioned that in their cohorts, a lot of them had trouble shifting and just like changing their mindset and their mental model, that the way they would look at the problem. In Coding Dojo, do you feel like that transition was pretty smooth? Were you able to learn the front end and transition into the back end pretty smoothly, or was it rocky?
Yeah, I don't even think I view it as like a transition between the two, because it was just like we built this project.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, and most of the time, yeah, I don't think I mean, you just built the project and it was kind of like you learned it. It was pretty fluid in how it was taught.
Okay. Sounds like they taught that well.
Yeah, I didn't see them as like the distinct things. I just felt like we were doing a project, which implies that you need to, in order for the back end to show, you got to do the front end. So I just feel like you kind of have to do the both back end and front end. So, yeah.
Cool.
And it was really great too with how like it taught me how to spin up projects super quick. So one of my tactics for when I was applying and I would get like that second in-person interview would be I would build a quick project for that interview. So like if it was, I had a financial tech company that I went in for an interview, I built them a quick like banking app or something, like just to show them that like, hey, I can spin up a project really quick. I know front end and back end, and I care about this, that I took my time and did this. So, I mean, that was one of my tactics, and I actually tell people that they should probably try to do that, because that's one thing that we really did learn was we spun up a project almost like every day.
That's impressive. That's definitely going an extra mile. I'm sure it made you stand out. Good job. It's also daunting and overwhelming to create a new project every day, because I love that idea if you really like the company. I feel like all of us kind of applied to companies and we categorized them, like companies like dream companies and companies that I'm probably going to like, companies that like I'll work at, but I need a developer position, and companies I'm like, it's going to put experience at the resume, but I don't, like, would you recommend that strategy for all those categories?
Probably not. I mean, me at the beginning, I fantasized about every company that would give me a chance. So I'm like, yeah, I could see myself there, like having snacks every day and stuff like that. But I mean, if it wasn't like you felt a little shady about the company or something like that, I'm sure I probably wouldn't have. I think I only did that twice, so
Oh,
I didn't do it every time. Yeah.
wait, how many
And
companies?
I didn't even do that for the company that hired me. So
Interesting. How? Okay, so how many companies did both of you apply to?
how many applications did I apply to?
Yeah.
I lost count.
I lost count too.
I'm gonna keep count on a spreadsheet or something to keep track of like
Yeah.
if I applied and if they reached back. I lost count.
How many?
I lost count too.
Well, would you say it's like a couple dozen, hundreds?
Hundreds probably.
Yeah.
Probably in the 100 range.
Okay.
I mean, every day I would apply to at least 20.
Every day?
Every day. Wow.
Wait.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the library and that's what I did from like 9 to 1 or something. I mean, I would just go there, apply, make some connections, and then like work on a project.
Wait, but it took you 6 months to get a job.
Yeah, but then COVID hit and I didn't apply.
Oh, gotcha.
I worked on a big project actually during that time that I actually like launched and had 200 users.
Oh, nice.
Currently down. I'm not maintaining it right now, but
Oh, no.
that was kind of like my like keep myself busy, try to get some connection type thing.
Okay. That's really cool. I love hearing about projects that get users. I know it's providing value to people, so
It taught me a lot.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so what about, I think like final piece of feedback, we talked about the curriculum. What about the instructors? What feedback would you have for your instructors if you had to be honest with them? Because I guarantee you, like I've already had a couple instructors reach out and actually thank me for like these kind of questions. So what feedback do you have for your instructors to help them improve the whole coding bootcamp and the way they teach?
I think it's the same thing that I've mentioned before. Maybe explain the concept a little bit more. Just the why we do certain things. That'll allow us to have the tool to be able to be more creative with our project.
Okay.
Instead of just following, blindly, I guess. So.
Okay. So focus a little bit more on, it sounds like, especially in your cohort, they should have just went over the fundamentals a little bit longer. It sounds like they really didn't focus on the basics too much. They jumped in too quickly.
Yeah, they jumped in like right away. There's HTML and CSS. I get the mechanics of it. I can reproduce it. But it's intimidating when you don't have anything that you can reference to. So.
For sure. I think pre-work is a really good solution for that. I hope they do implement something like that where they do like kind of just give you a test. And I know they gave you the test during the interview, but like even another test to just say, okay, like you scored a 60% or whatever. So we recommend you go through like these 2 modules and kind of create some like pre-course content. I think that would be really, really beneficial for them.
Yeah, like pre-course before you even delve into and just to get you prepping for that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
You got anything, Chris? Or were your instructors just
I think I do agree that those common practices, those best practices of why or how to do things. I think we just kind of like went through it real quick. They would kind of like go over some things. I think they were pretty good. We had daily surveys that we would have to fill out. I don't know if people were honest or anything like that, but there were times where it was like they seemed like they might be like kicking up what they were doing. Like we would hold like go over a project, like have we did like a like a commutative coding thing where we all were on our computer and in virtual code, like live or whatever, and we all like built a project together. It was kind of crazy.
Huh.
And then our instructor would do like coding reviews every Friday. Like he started to do that. Like we would be able to ask him any questions. He would bring a one-on-one thing. So I think they were pretty good on like trying to do their best. I mean, you can only do so much with so much time and a certain amount of people and I think they did as best they could.
That's neat. They did the coding reviews like on Fridays and stuff. That's neat.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I think it benefited a lot of people. I think if a lot of people were like standing out of like, hey, like I had problems with today's algorithm, an instructor would pull them into that group into another room and like, let's go over it and let's talk about it and stuff like that. So they did pretty good.
Sounds like they really cared too. It's a good group.
Yeah, it was a very good group.
Awesome. Well, that covers almost everything that I wanted to talk about. This was really, really helpful because I have never really talked to too many people that came from Coding Dojo. So I was kind of looking forward to hearing a little bit more about it. So what I like to do kind of for the final thing, and Maggie, I'm glad you stayed. First of all, I love your energy, and you had really good questions, so thank you. But I definitely want to hear your opinion too. So if we could kind of share like one final piece of advice for developers that are going through a coding boot camp or considering it, or even just graduating, and they might have that imposter syndrome, and they might be feeling discouraged. What would each of your advice be for the listeners?
I think mine goes back to don't compare yourself to other developers. Really compare yourself to yourself and what you've done. And if you've learned something new, then that's already good. Celebrate the small wins because there's a lot of small things that you do throughout learning how to code that are a really big step. And I don't think that they're celebrated enough. And yeah, it leaves room to be really hard on yourself, if you don't really stop and appreciate like, wow, like I have done this. This is good that I've learned this, or you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So celebrate the small wins and don't compare yourself. And I think that will help.
That's a hard thing not to do. I know I did it for way, way too long.
Oh, absolutely. And continue to learn after and during if you start to learn or take a boot camp, learn after and during.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be my advice too, is just like learn as much as possible. I'm constantly trying to like figure things out, and like even when problems come to me now, I'm always looking things up and trying to get those best practices that I might have not gotten in the boot camp. It's just kind of like believe in yourself that if you just made it through a boot camp, like not a lot of people can do that. Obviously, I mean, people dropped out, couldn't do it, realized that, hey, like I can't sit behind a desk for 5 hours to 8 hours and do this all day long. Believe in what you just did was something that a lot of people can't do. And if you made it this far, you learned more than you think you learned, because, in the job now, I'm like, if I went back to that first day of, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, I'd be like, I know everything. Like I can do all that. So it's like, but at one point I'm like struggling through that. But now it's just like a daily thing for me. So it's just like, learn, believe in yourself, know when that imposter syndrome like comes in and realize it.
I like that you said that earlier.
Because it does get worse when you start a job. I just
scare everyone off now.
I thought they were going to come in any day and just be like, you know what, you need to leave. and just get rid of me. But the more time you put in, the more feedback that you get from your employer saying that, hey, you're doing like a great job. It's reassuring. I mean, you're gonna look stuff up every day. I mean, I Google probably the simplest stuff just because, like, you know, you can't remember everything. So it's just keep at it, you know, maybe fake it till you make it a little bit. Just apply, be honest with your employer, be honest with yourself, and just do what you want. You did this for a reason. Just do it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, this is going to be kind of like a self-advertisement when I'm going to shout myself out. On twitch.tv/DonTheDeveloper, anyone that's listening, if you want to, like, I think it helps to see a developer just go through the day-to-day. I have the most embarrassing moments. Like, I will misname variables, and like that will be a bug that I discover like an hour later, like really dumb mistakes. And I've been a professional developer for at least 3 years now, and I still, like, sometimes you have off days. Sometimes for me it was a lot of caffeine crashes, but like, it happens to senior developers, like really silly mistakes.
It actually happened with someone today. My back end partner. I'm the front end. He's the back end. We're the web team. He just said, he was like, I just spent 3 hours trying to figure this out. And it's just like, he has 10 years experience. And it's just like, it was something somewhat simple, but it was a problem. And we all face that. He's like, I like to think I don't face stuff like that, but it happens to everybody.
Typos are my like downfall. That's the same thing, like how you said, like, you'll misname a variable, and like typos are my thing that I'm like, that will cause bugs. And I'm like, what did I do? And then, yeah.
Well, you're not alone.
Yeah, I would say don't be a perfectionist. It's normal to stumble upon, and like you guys all said, that sometimes it'll be something so silly that we don't see it. So you constantly have to be up for disappointment, but keep your expectations low, really low, and just do what you have to do. But it's better that you have something working, and then instead of like thinking about the best code practices, because eventually you'll find out as you go along.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just starting and then just go from there. So at least that was kind of my issue, because I was, before coding, I was still used to, trying to do everything so perfect, learn everything there is. And then when I started getting coding, it felt like it was a weakness that I had to fix. And so I learned to be comfortable with not knowing, but you'll find out. So even if it takes a couple hours, like Chris said, and definitely the comparison that Maggie stated, don't compare. I mean, when I first started out, I was like, how do you have an app up and running within an hour? Like, this is insane. But now I look back and I can do it too.
Yeah.
So it's because I put the time to it. So you cannot compare, with somebody who had 5 years experience versus you had 5 months experience. So just keep that in mind. I know it's hard, but just keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
You gotta start somewhere, and don't doubt yourself. If you have the will and the want to like go through this, anybody can kind of do it with that mentality. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school. I didn't go to college. I'm a recovering addict with 10 years of sobriety.
That's awesome.
And I'm living the life that I should have been living a long time ago. And, I love every minute of it. And I'm glad I did what I did.
And now you're a developer.
Yeah.
And now I have lived my life.
I think that's one of the best thing about boot camps, though. It's like, I mean, there's so many different people with so many different backgrounds, and like it gives you that chance to like really change. I mean, it changed my life. Like, it changes people's careers. It's a huge switch, and it's something like I mean, I've been in it now for 3.5 years, and I'm like, I can't imagine like what I was doing before and what I would have, like, what would I have done if I didn't go? You know what I mean? I think that's always an interesting thing.
I know.
I would still be working, 80 hours a week at a restaurant, doing something that I didn't enjoy, and it's not that rewarding either. So
Yeah.
this is rewarding. When I have those small wins, it's just like, wow, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, this is one thing I love about people that graduate coding boot camps. What it takes to graduate, it takes a lot of perseverance, and you always change when you come out of it for the better. You just build good habits, and I always like to hope people continue those habits. Some don't, but that, like, all of you had really, really good advice, and I think it's I don't know. I think it was really good advice. And Keiko, one thing that you mentioned earlier, you had called perfectionism weakness. And I am so glad that you said that, because so many people need to hear that, because that's exactly what it is. Perfection. I can't even remember the saying, such a good saying, but basically perfectionism, it is a weakness. It's a sign. It's basically a lack of confidence in what you can produce. That's pretty much what it is. And it's just, if you're a developer with a graveyard of projects, it's probably due to perfectionism. And what I mean a graveyard of projects, I'm talking about, like, you started a project, you realize that you might be in over your head. Some people switch because they get bored, or they're leaning too much on motivation to finish something. That's a whole other conversation. But you had mentioned that you got overwhelmed with tutorials, just you're like, I'm not good enough yet. I can't get this project done the way I want to get it done. So I'm going to learn all of this other stuff. And then I come back to it. And really the only thing that's going to get you through it is just to keep pushing forward and coding. That's the only way you're going to grow and learn from that. But I feel like more people need to hear that. So I'm glad you just were bold and said that. So thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it. So what we're going to do, we'll just kind of say our goodbyes. If you want, go ahead and shout yourself out on social media. If you do, probably going to link it in the notes, just if people want to connect with you. But Maggie, if you want to go first.
I don't have social media,
That's
but
probably
I have
a good thing.
Yeah, I wish I could get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Bye, and thank you for having me, and I'm sorry for the hiccup, but I was really happy to be a part of this.
Why are you apologizing? That was 100% my mistake. You're way too nice. But yeah, thanks for staying on. I'm just gonna go left to right. Everyone's order is different. I learned that about Zoom. But anyways, I live code on Twitch every Saturday, Sunday at noon. Twitch.tv/DonTheDeveloper. We do this podcast every week. If you need, we do like a kind of like a portfolio review. Some people will ask for me to review their projects. Sometimes I dig into the code. Sometimes it's a UX review. Just send me a message. Happy to help you out. But usually I just tell people my Twitch because I want you to just come in and talk. I want to hear like what your questions are. Let's just chat. That's the time I pretty much have to talk to all of you. So join me on Twitch. How about you, Keiko?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I believe it's Keiko-Camille. So that's one of my social media that you could reach me out, or if you have any advice on the book, any advice about the boot camps, or where to start, or even the applying process. And, I found it the hard way, like the good practices and the bad practices of applying jobs. Just reach out to me.
That's generous. Thank you. How about you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Christopher Carey. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has or anything like that. Shoot me an email or shoot me a message. We're all in this together. So if all those new people need help with anything, like I'm there as much as I can be. So yeah.
Man, that's what I love about the developer community. That's awesome. All right, cool.
And
Well,
I think maybe a little bit more about boot camp grads.
ooh,
We're a little more, like supportive.
a little more, huh? I like it. I like it.
Maybe.
No, let's go with it. I agree. I like it. No, but awesome. If you guys, okay, so that's the end of the podcast. If you guys like it, definitely subscribe. This is going to be put on YouTube, and you're probably going to find all the audio stuff on Buzzsprout, bunch of different podcast things. Let me know what you think about it. Feel free to reach out. Definitely leave a review if you can, or a comment, ask questions. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Maggie, Keiko, Chris, thanks so much for joining me. It was definitely a pleasure meeting all of you. So yeah, thanks for hopping on. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Everything we believe, we just see